Once upon a time, there was a man who could do no wrong. He was charming, he was bankable, and he had convinced an entire generation that getting jiggy with it was somehow acceptable behavior. That man was Will Smith. This is the story of how he managed to throw it all away in approximately 30 seconds of primetime television. Let's start at the beginning, when Will stumbles into The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which made him a household name. The show ran for 6 seasons and turned Will into America's favorite nephew. He was charming, he was safe, he could dance, and most importantly, he made white audiences feel comfortable about hip-hop culture. But Will had even bigger dreams, movie star dreams, and unlike most rappers turned actors, Looking at You, Vanilla Ice, he actually had talent. Independence Day, Men in Black, Enemy of the State, Bad Boys. The man wasn't just making movies, he was creating a formula. By the late 90s, Will Smith was box office gold. He had the Midas touch, except instead of gold, everything he touched turned into $100 million opening weekends. But success, as it turns out, is a hell of a drug, and Will Smith was about to become Hollywood's most expensive addict. The warning signs were there. After Earth, a movie so boring it made Scientology seem interesting by comparison. And speaking of Scientology, now Will never officially joined the Church of Scientology. He just donated millions to Scientology schools, hung out with Tom Cruise constantly, and spoke at Scientology events. You know, normal Tuesday activities. But the real plot twist was happening at home. Will and Jada decided that traditional parenting was for peasants. Why have normal teenage problems when you can have whatever this was? Jaden Smith, a child who somehow convinced adults that mirrors aren't real because our eyes aren't real. Willow, who was whipping her hair back and forth while most kids were still learning to tie their shoes. The Smith family had gone full Hollywood. And by Hollywood, I mean completely detached from reality. Then came the entanglement era. And by entanglement, I mean Jada's very public, let's call it friendship, with August Alsina, a singer young enough to be confused for one of their children. Most couples handle marital problems privately. The Smiths decided to broadcast theirs to the world because nothing says healthy relationship like airing your dirty laundry on Facebook Watch. Will sat there, looking like a man who had just watched his dignity get up and walk out the door. Which, to be fair, it probably did. March 27, 2022, the Academy Awards, a night that should have been Will Smith's crowning achievement, his first Oscar win for King Richard. Instead, it became the night Will Smith decided to speedrun the destruction of a 30-year career. Chris Rock made a joke about Jada's shaved head, a mild joke, a joke so tame it could have been told at a church potluck. Will Smith did what any reasonable person would do. He walked on stage in front of millions of viewers and slapped Chris Rock. Then, and this is where it gets truly beautiful, he sat back down and yelled, "Keep my wife's name out your effing mouth," as if the assault hadn't already made his feelings clear. The audience sat in stunned silence. Then, in a move that would make even the most shameless politician cringe, Will gave his acceptance speech. He cried. He apologized to the Academy. He compared himself to Richard Williams protecting his family. He forgot to apologize to the person he actually hit. The fallout was swift and brutal. Hollywood, an industry that had overlooked decades of actual crimes, suddenly discovered its moral compass. Will resigned from the Academy. He was banned from attending the Oscars for 10 years. Netflix paused his projects. Sony put his films on hold. The internet predictably had thoughts. Will Smith became a meme. Will tried the apology tour. He posted a video on YouTube, looking like a man who had just realized he'd fumbled the bag of the century. He apologized to Chris Rock, who had already moved on and was selling out arenas with new material. But here's the thing about public humiliation in the social media age. It's permanent. Screenshots are forever. So, what does a fallen superstar do when the world has moved on? If you're Will Smith, apparently you drop your first album in 20 years and hope people have forgotten about that whole assault thing. March 2025. Based on a true story. The title alone should have been a warning sign. When someone feels the need to clarify that their story is true, it usually means they're about to lie to you extensively. The album deals in cringy, gospel-tinged, platitudinous rap that tries to turn his public humiliation into inspirational content. Because nothing says, "I've learned my lesson," like monetizing your mistakes. Will positioned this as his vulnerable comeback, his therapeutic journey. his path to redemption. He was basically selling his midlife crisis as a concept album. The results were predictable. The album didn't make it onto the Billboard 200, marking the first time a solo Will Smith project has missed the chart entirely. Will Smith, the man who once dominated summer box offices and sold millions of records, couldn't crack the top 200. That's not just a flop, that's a crater. The album was supposed to be his redemption arc. Instead, it became Exhibit A in why some comebacks should stay theoretical. So where does Will Smith go from here? He's been spotted around town, probably wondering how he went from "I am legend" to "I am unemployed" in the span of a hand gesture. Though, let's be clear, with a net worth of around $350 million, Will isn't exactly checking couch cushions for loose change. He's not broke, he's just irrelevant. His marriage to Jada continues, because apparently public humiliation is their love language. Which brings us to one of the more painful truths in this saga. Maybe, just maybe, getting a divorce could have saved his career. Here's a life lesson Hollywood won't teach you. Don't marry someone who's still pining for Tupac Shakur if you're, well, Will Smith. Jada has been remarkably open about her feelings for the late rapper, describing him as her soulmate while sitting next to her actual husband. There's something deeply tragic about a man trying to be the tough guy his wife actually wanted, when everyone knows you're the guy who made Getting Jiggy with It. The kids are, well, they're still the kids. Jaden is probably somewhere right now having deep thoughts about the nature of existence. Willow is doing whatever Willow does when she's not whipping her hair. Chris Rock, meanwhile, is having the last laugh. His tour sold out instantly. His Netflix special broke records. He turned getting slapped into a career renaissance. It's almost poetic. The man who got hit is thriving, while the man who did the hitting is in career purgatory. Will Smith spent 3 decades building one of the most successful careers in entertainment history. From Philadelphia rapper to global superstar, he mastered every medium he touched. He was beloved, bankable, and seemed practically scandal-proof. It took him 30 seconds to tear it all down. There's probably a lesson here about anger management, or thinking before you act, or maybe just not committing assault on live television. Or perhaps the lesson is that when you've destroyed your brand so thoroughly, people aren't interested in your spiritual journey. They just want you to go away quietly. Will Smith, from Fresh Prince to fresh out of options. What do you think? Is his career over or can he make a comeback? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.